Hello everyone, we return once again to Rainbow Six Cringe, and today we have a very special episode. I know that I previously went over the new operator sins and why I didn't like them, but I failed to mention anything about the new squad they were with, Wolfguard. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now I see we have a new squad in Rainbow called Ghost Eyes. Now I have lots of questions about these new squads. Are they still affiliated with Rainbow Six, or are they their own separate groups now? If they are still affiliated with Rainbow, then why squad them up like this? Doesn't that defeat the purpose of synergy and teamwork among the whole thing like Harry wanted? If they're their own thing now, then isn't Rainbow fractured? Who knows? So today, I think it's time. I took a look at both trailers for these squads, discussed them, and then at the end, I'll tell you what I think about them both, of course, and how I think they'll impact the lore of Rainbow Six. But more than that, I'll be explaining why this lore is actually worse than you realize from a writing perspective and a gameplay perspective. Let's get started with the one I missed first. Wolfguard.
There are civilians out there who need us. They can't fight back.
What a messy table. Doc, would you clean up your mess? How are you planning on saving anyone with a messy table like that? In all seriousness, though, I do actually like this opening, the acknowledgement that they recognize the threat to civilians and the desire to help those in need. I've always preferred soldiers and operators who recognize that their goal is not so much to kill the bad guy, but to protect the innocent, so I like that.
They can't escape, and they can't heal their own wounds.
Wait, is that a car battery? Bandit is in Wolfguard? He's not really the touchy-feely fellow I would have expected to be in a squad intent on protecting innocent lives, but oh, I get it. It's because Doc is leading it, and that filthy drug dealer needs his fix from the big pharma himself, right?
That's our job, and we're the best at it.
I'm sorry, but do you guys play Rainbow Six? I have been team killed enough times by you people that I'm convinced Edward Scissorhands is better at healing wounds than you gun-happy psychopaths.
By being careful and compassionate, we can make the world a safer place for everyone.
Careful and compassionate. Words I rarely associate with Rainbow Six Siege.
We do this to be of service, and we can't afford to be complacent. When we go out there, we work twice as hard to protect others. Whatever we have to do, we put the people first. That will be our focus. With unwavering diligence, we defend. And we get to say that when Wolfguard is on the field, things will be different.
And that's Wolfguard. Definitely a decent opener, and I do like the motivation. Very clear-cut, easy to follow. Yeah, I liked it pretty fun. But now let's compare it to the brand new trailer about the brand new faction, Ghost Eyes. Play it!
A covert specialist's best tools are secrecy and fear.
Secrecy, yes, but fear, no. Covert operations are not just assassinations, you know. In fact, assassination only makes up a small part of covert operations. And even when they are assassinations, the assassin would probably prefer their target not be aware of their presence. It actually works better for an assassin in most circumstances to take his or her target unaware and in the middle of a sort of daily routine or lifestyle where their target feels safe and secure. Because if they get scared, they're going to up their security and make it harder to get to them. Now, of course, in the case of Rainbow, you're obviously referring to situations in combat. So I understand what you're getting at, but just something I thought I'd point out there.
We are the boogeymen of the military world.
Okay, that sounded a little juvenile, not gonna lie there, Cav. Couldn't you have said, we're the demons of the military world? The ghosts of the military world? Maybe the wraiths of the military world? Like, you know, something that sounds more like a word an adult would use, not boogeymen.
I'm the boogeyman!
I don't even believe in you. Go talk to my little brother.
Yeah, go to bed.
Shh.
When we come for you, there's nothing you can do.
I mean, I have options. I could shoot you, for one thing. Cav, have you played Rainbow Six Siege? You know that one of the best counters to you is a gun, right? Like, you are aware of that, right? Just saying, you are aware. You do have counters, and most of them are lead.
Going radio silent. We're the best suited to deal with the worst. Our only directive is to achieve our objective. No questions, no red tape.
All right, who writes this? Again, this sounds so juvenile. Of course your directive is to achieve your objective. A directive is your instructions. They're your orders. And your orders are usually to fulfill the objective. What we don't know is your objective. If I'm a football coach and I say, all right, boys, I want you to score a touchdown, I have told them the objective by giving them the directive.
No doubt they came to the station for the abundance of Oni excavation data stored there, and you let them get away.
Data retrieval was not a command directive. Even had we known, we had other more urgent matters to attend to.
If I ask you, what's your directive, I'm asking you what you're trying to do. What's your goal? What are you working towards? This line is almost completely redundant. Our instructions are to achieve our objectives. And what, you don't think Nighthaven and Wolfguard have the same MO? They too want to achieve their objectives, but at least with Wolfguard, we know what their objective is, to save lives, to get people out. What's yours? Why not tell us what your objectives are? What is the end goal? Are you trying to assassinate people? Okay, who? And why? Now, as for the red tape part, I admit I'm a bit confused. Red tape, for those unfamiliar with the term, basically refers to any hindrance or obstacle that arises from either jurisdictional, legal, or governmental policies or issues. If an object is covered in red tape, that means it's wrapped up in so much hindrance legally that it's hard to get to it. Now, it's cool here that Cav is saying we don't worry about red tape. I mean, that's awesome, but there are two questions. One, isn't that one of the reasons Nighthaven left Rainbow in the first place? That there was too much red tape around everything, too many rules, too many restrictions? They wanted to be free to operate within their own parameters, and thus they left Rainbow. So how come this new faction has more ability to do what they like? Are they still a part of Rainbow or not? And second, what red tape should exist? I mean, okay, I get Rainbow Six technically is a government-funded organization, but I thought they kind of had a blank check. Didn't the opening trailer of Rainbow Six Siege say that
orders and protocols are irrelevant?
Yeah, the orders and protocols are irrelevant, right? That means no red tape. Do what you have to do. We'll look the other way. So what is holding up Rainbow anyway? What orders or protocols are holding them back, and why are they there? What is the red tape?
The intel and contacts we acquire are more reliable than any big dog in a suit. They open more doors than any warrant. Say goodnight, desgraçado. Someone has to get their hands dirty to chase the rats out of the darkness. We are ghost eyes. We find our enemies in their homes, and we make them disappear.
Okay, so we have our new group Ghost Eyes. Along with Nighthaven and Wolfguard, it appears 3 new factions exist within the world of Rainbow Six Siege, and we'll have to wait and see if any new factions show up. And you know what? I'll be fair. I didn't mind these trailers too much. They were both fine, just a bit generic, I'd say. But here's my ultimate takeaway. After watching the direction Rainbow Six Siege has gone lately, I've noticed a trend. I get told this a lot. No one cares about lore. The lore doesn't matter. And in most cases, I would agree that, on a fundamental level, at least, lore shouldn't matter. And yet it's very clear that Rainbow Six has suddenly decided to care a lot about its lore. Why, though? There is a reason, and I'd like to analyze this briefly with you. So follow me, as I reveal a bit of a theory I have that might surprise you as I compare Rainbow Six Siege's lore to For Honor's lore. Now, back in its prime, I heard quite a few Rainbow Six Siege players say that For Honor was a shit game and that Rainbow was the real baby of Ubisoft. And there was some truth to that back then. Rainbow Six Siege was, and still remains to some extent, one of Ubisoft's top games. It had the attention of some huge names in the gaming world and content creation market, including the likes of Russian Badger, of whom I am a big fan. It was his own endorsement of the game that even made me aware of it and made me want to play the game. But you'll notice that over the past updates and seasons, Badger doesn't talk about Siege anymore. Some of the old content creators I used to follow for Siege content alone now rarely upload anything for it at all, or have given it up altogether. Personally, I think the reason why is that the game is too repetitive. It has no real direction, and the cosmetics are a pain to achieve. But I don't think I'm alone in thinking this. I think the developers realized it too, to some extent. See, after year 3 of For Honor, there was this sudden surge in player base thanks to the Year of the Harbinger and the arrival of a battle pass to For Honor with year 4. And I think Rainbow looked to For Honor and decided to borrow some of that idea. They thought to themselves, you know, maybe we are a bit too repetitive. Maybe there isn't enough life. What can we do to breathe life into our product? For Honor seems to be breathing life into its product through its lore. Let's do the same thing. Let's build a lore. So first thing they did, firstly, Nighthaven showing up. Now, we know what happens with Nighthaven. Nighthaven falls out with Rainbow. Now, I can't be sure exactly when this rift happened in the developmental minds, but we see the beginnings of it at least in Operation Neon Dawn, where we see Ash and Kali having it out. That was in December 2020, so you know. Interestingly enough, I found the division and rivalry between Rainbow and Nighthaven to be starkly similar to Chimera and Horkos from For Honor. Nighthaven and Horkos aren't that different. Both use unknown or highly questionable technology. Both believe in any means necessary to achieve their goals, including putting innocent lives in danger to do it. And as we establish in Operation Demon Veil, both have no qualms about killing innocents or putting innocents in danger. However, the official reveal of Horkos vs. Chimera as a concept began in year 4 of For Honor, and the developers stated that before that year even came out that they had planned all 4 seasons in advance. So at least we can assume that they had the idea sometime around the start of year 4, which was around December 2019. A whole year's different, right? But of course you could make the argument that Rainbow planned the betrayal of Nighthaven as early as it was revealed, which would also be around December 2019. So at the very least, it looked like both concepts were developed around the same time, if we assume that the Rainbow Six Siege developers always planned to have Nighthaven betray Rainbow. And if that's true, then my point stands. If not, then it only means that they might have taken that idea from For Honor a little later than before. Okay, so we've said that part. We've talked about that little conspiracy theory. Let's keep moving. Though For Honor has now resorted to a civil war, that doesn't change the fact that it has 4 very distinct and recognizable factions within its own world: Knights, Samurai, Vikings, and Muulin. Rainbow Six has always differentiated its characters not by factions, but by how they function and what their goals are. Either they're attackers or they're defenders. The countries of origin that they come from or the organizations that they were originally from are arbitrary and do not play any real role in the character's usability or motivations. But now we have 4 distinct factions, each with their own supposed motives and goals. Rainbow, obviously, but also Nighthaven, Wolfguard, and now Ghost Eyes. And what do I find most entertaining about the new faction? This is just a side thing, but isn't Ghost Eyes' logo a spider with an eye on it? I'm sorry, but what was the whole last season of For Honor all about, if not spiders? Am I saying they ripped off the Yoroguma idea? No, that's speculatory. But I do think it's hilarious. I think that Rainbow has run so dry on narrative ideas, they're turning to For Honor, the supposed dead game, to try and breathe new life into it. But again, that's speculatory. The biggest problem I see is none of that. The biggest problem I see with this lore is that these changes to narrative and lore are not only sudden, but they do not function well. They feel like they were taped or glued onto a product on which it really doesn't belong. Follow me on this one. What was Rainbow's narrative originally about? The white mask terrorists who were a threat to world peace. Rainbow Six was created as a counter-terrorist organization to counter this global threat. But did they have any impact on the gameplay? Did it have any impact on orders or objectives given? Did they have any impact on new character introductions? Did new characters join up because they had personal stakes or issues? Or do the white mask terrorists get any special mention or mission to complete outside of just terrorist hunt, the utterly useless player versus AI mode? No. Rainbow Six had no interest in its own lore that established it. And that's fine. I don't particularly care. You don't have to care about your lore. You can totally just create a lore that sets it up and then forget about it for all I care. That's fine. But now Rainbow Six wants to play the lore narrative game. They've sunk time, money, and resources into making these new factions, making videos about new characters and new factions, making whole lore setups, whole dialogue options. Why now, all of a sudden? They didn't care before, so why suddenly become more narrative-driven now? I mean, either way, okay. I mean, it doesn't really matter why, I guess, but what do you want to do with your new opportunity to create lore? What do you want to do? First, they introduced Nighthaven, at the same time Horkos is being set up, by the way, and the falling out between Nighthaven and Rainbow is a decent conflict when it comes to a head, but it doesn't seem to impact anything other than establishing the new operators being introduced as picking sides. Once the real conflict between Nighthaven and Rainbow gets started, all later operators that show up kind of pick their sides. Flores, Thorn, Sins, and Azami all being on Rainbow's side, Ace, Osa, and Aruni all being on Nighthaven's side. Now granted, the Horkos and Chimera War hasn't caused any fundamental changes to gameplay either, but there were clear event game modes created to reflect the war throughout Year 4, and even in Year 5, we had the Horkos Masquerade and the Chimera Banquet, cosmetics, game modes, even some executions, but the most Rainbow has given is merely cosmetic. It doesn't matter that Ash and Kali hate each other currently in the lore, you can still play the two on the same team and Ash can still revive Kali if she's shot. No animosity, no change in playability or game mode, nothing. Now, to be fair, a Warmonger and a Griffin can revive each other in For Honor too in a similar way, but at the same time, an argument could be made that not all Warmongers are on the side of Horkos either. Other than Griffin, no character is a singular named character in For Honor, whereas with Rainbow Six, there's only one Ash and only one Kali. The gameplay style does not support this lore decision well. But now you have Wolfguard and Ghost Eyes, and that leads to even more questions. Ghost Eyes is another faction, but are they with Rainbow or Nighthaven, or do they work alone? They are the boogeyman, but to who? Who do they hunt? What are their goals? At the very least, we can say that they all share a common affinity for espionage and subterfuge, although, in that case, where's Dokkaebi? She's my girl, where's Dokkaebi? If you can add Mozzie to that list, shouldn't she be on there too? But is that really all Rainbow's become now? It all feels hastily thrown together so that Rainbow Six can have multiple factions. And for what? Why do they want multiple factions? Is there a new war coming within Rainbow? Is there a new big operation underway? Are they planning a new game mode where you pick your squad you want to represent and fight for them? No. No, I'll tell you what I think it's for. It's for cosmetics to add to a battle pass. Hear me out. Hey guys, Raven Knight here, interrupting just a minute. So I had finished recording everything for this video, and then I went to go play a few rounds of Rainbow for the footage that you're seeing here, and I saw through playing the rounds that a few things had been changed, and I got some of my math wrong in how the battle pass and the points for it are calculated. So you're going to hear me say some things here that are not quite accurate. They are outdated. I've left it as is, but I will interject every now and then to let you know where I got a few things wrong. My overall point about the Battle Pass being a problem still stands because I don't think it should connect to the lore, and I'll make that apparent, but still, I made mistakes here, and just calling myself out. Please forgive me. Okay, let's keep going. Say what you want about battle passes, and believe me, there's a lot to say, but there hasn't been a single season in For Honor where I've had trouble getting through a battle pass. In fact, if I had to complain about the battle pass in For Honor, it's almost too easy to complete before the season is over. Rainbow's battle pass takes forever to reach completion for casual players who aren't winning most matches, and cosmetics outside of the battle pass cost hella bread to get. Why? Well, okay, I did some calculations, I did some research, and granted, these calculations might be outdated, and if they are, let me know in the comment sections. I don't mind to be proven wrong, but this is what I found. In For Honor, obtaining one tier in a battle pass requires 300 points. Completing a match automatically gets you 100 points. Winning gets you extra points, and the kind of game mode can boost that even more, Dominion and Breach giving you the most points. So technically, it might only take a few weeks to fully finish the battle pass if someone was really dedicated. Okay, so my first boo-boo that I made, surprisingly enough, was with this For Honor information. So did some more research and found this. Found out that you do need 300 battle pass points to complete one tier. You get 150 battle pass points from completing daily orders, none from contract orders. And you also, get battle pass points scaling from the length of a match. And according to these numbers that this person got, 119 battle pass points from Breach PvAI without matchmaking, 22 BPs from the weekly arcade quest, 53 BPs from a Dominion PvAI without matchmaking, and 71 from a Dominion PvP. I haven't crunched the numbers myself. I looked this up. So I was wrong here. My point stands, but I was wrong with the numbers. So, my fault. Rainbow Six, meanwhile, is 1,000 points per tier. And how do you earn points? Winning a match gets you 120 points. Losing gets you 100. Really? So only a 20-point difference between a win and a loss? Okay, but let's keep going. Winning a round gets you 60 points. Doing ranked matches grants a 25% bonus, and completing a community mission grants 850 points. So to be clear, I'm a casual gamer who struggles to win in Rainbow Six Siege half the time because I'm genuinely not good at it. I admit that. Without help from community missions, since most of them are very difficult to pull off, like pulling off headshots with pistols or killing with hand-to-hand with melee combat, like meleeing people, a certain number of people to death. I'm not good at that. I'm just lucky if I can get a win, right? Since I struggle to complete those, let's leave community missions out, right? That means that the most I can get, in order for me to be super lucky, that means I win three matches and win a match. That means I can only hope to get 300 points max from a win. That's without playing ranked and without playing with community missions on the line, right? That means at most I can only get 300 points max. Oh man, did I screw this one up? Okay, so here's what I learned. After I played through that match of Rainbow Six Siege, you'll actually see it at the end of the video when we win the match. Spoiler alert. But I took a look at the ending score, and things have changed. Here's the way it used to be. Back in the old days when I played Rainbow Six Siege, I used to play unranked, like I used to play just casual game, and it would be best out of 5. I calculated assuming that I'd win 3 matches in a match, which would be my 3 rounds. Instead, playing unranked means it's best out of 4. So, well, best out of 6, which means 4 matches, which means it's a total of 240 points for 4-1 rounds. Then your match win plus 120. So all of that together is higher than 300. Obviously. And then unranked matches apparently also give you 90 points as well. So, actually, all in all, you would make a total of 450. And that's assuming you don't complete a challenge, which I apparently accidentally did. I apparently completed a challenge in this match and I didn't realize it, so that bumped me up with an extra 1,150, which gave me a grand total of 1,600 battle points, which pushed me up into tier 2 pretty comfortably. So, yeah, I had to eat some humble pie with this one. Hey, I can be wrong. I still stand by that's a little low because I think I accidentally completed that challenge. And had I not completed that challenge, I would have only gotten 450 battle points, which would not have been 1,000. So I still stand by it's still pretty low, but as I looked through the challenges, there are a whole plethora of challenges now. It didn't used to be that way. I think it only used to give you like 6 or 7 at a time. Now they've given you a bunch of them, so I guess they've made it easier to complete challenges. So sorry for the slander there, Rainbow Six. I stand corrected. I do. Stand corrected. I still think it's silly, but yep, I was wrong. Admonish me. I was wrong. Do you realize how many of those wins I'd have to get in order to complete the pass in the quickest amount of time? I would have to play almost 10 or 12 matches a day just to get anywhere, and that would still be enormous, and that's assuming I could win all of them. You want to know what usually happens? I usually end up losing all 3 rounds, and that means I only get 100 points for that round. Wow, I got 10% of a whole tier done. I promise, guys, I'm not normally this stupid. I just haven't touched Rainbow Six in forever. I just assumed it hadn't changed. Oh man, I'm sorry. Okay, fine. So you're not very good at the game and you want to get stuff in the battle pass. Understandable. Use in-game currency to pay for a tier. You can do that. Just use the in-game currency. Yes, I can do that. Let's talk about that in-game currency. Anyone who says Marching Fire was a giant cash grab from Ubisoft needs to look at the Rainbow Six store and recognize that cash grab doesn't begin to describe Rainbow Six's system. Rainbow Six Siege offers 2 forms of currency to purchase items, one of which is renown, obtainable through gameplay. The other is only obtainable through real-world money purchase. And there are some items in the Rainbow Six Siege store, such as elite skins, that can only be purchased through this real-world money currency. So it doesn't matter how much you grind or you save, you'll still be paying out of pocket. Whereas everything in For Honor, with the exception of Marching Fire, has been steel available. I can't in good conscience call Marching Fire a cash grab when it is a one-time payment to gain access to a brand new faction and a new game mode. When I compare it with Rainbow Six, where you must pay the same amount of money, and through that can only get access to 2 elite skins. And with that even, the thing about elite skins in Rainbow Six Siege, which I find so funny, the only reason you'd get them is for not only their looks, but for their animation, right? But you can only do the animation if not only does your team win, but only if you're MVP. That means not only did you have to win, you had to be the best on your team. And for me, someone who's established as bad at the game, very rarely gets that. Okay, so this is one that I had to verify and look up, and so I'm pleased to say that I was mostly right here with a few small errors. So here's what I found. Marching Fire costs about $30. Okay, looking at the elite skins in Rainbow Six, each Rainbow Six elite skin costs 1,800 R6 credits, which are the form of in-game currency that you can only purchase through real-world money. The best way to get one elite skin is to purchase the 2670 R6 credit currency pack, which will pay for one elite skin and some change. Then after that, you'd probably want to pay close to another $15 to buy another, so that roughly translates out to about $30 total for 2 elite skins. So I was pretty close in my math, although with some finagling you could reduce that number down just a little bit, so I was still pretty much right there. What I was wrong about is that you are capable of getting R6 credits through the battle pass. There are other ways outside of just out-of-pocket purchasing. However, out-of-pocket purchasing is the primary way of getting R6 credits. So I wasn't entirely wrong, but I still needed to mention it. All right, moving on. I don't need to buy steel to complete the battle pass in For Honor, but if I want to reach tier 50 in Rainbow, I usually have to pull out the old wallet. So in short, if the goal of the new factions and lore in Rainbow about them is purely for the sake of Battle Pass cosmetics, then For Honor has achieved superiority in the fact that while both ask you to pay for access to a premium pass, one makes it easier and more rewarding to complete your matches and earn tiers, while the other almost emphasizes the need to pay unless you're a god tier player. Not only this, but in every For Honor Battle Pass, there are new weapons and cosmetics for all characters. Rainbow only focuses on a handful of weapon skins and outfits for characters. Let that sink in. For Honor Battle Passes involve new cosmetics and weapons for all characters. Rainbow only focuses on a handful of weapon skins and outfits for characters. Okay guys, hey, last time I'm butting in, promise. But I just want to clarify this. I want to just clarify that in this case, in that blurb you just heard, I was talking about the 2 battle passes. I'm not talking about Marching Fire right now. I know that someone's going to go to the comments and say, hey man, what about Marching Fire? Didn't they force you to pay just to get a new faction? Yes, they did. And we can talk about that. But in this case, I'm talking about the fact that Rainbow Six Siege is only creating factions now, or groups now, to incentivize new battle passes so that these factions can be featured in battle passes. And I don't think that's a good idea, especially when you compare it to For Honor, who in each battle pass always has not only a season theme, but also manages to get new cosmetics and weapons and stuff like that out for all heroes, not just a small group of them that they've decided to focus on this season. Here, though, in Rainbow Six Siege, they create a faction, create lore around it, for no other reason than to create a new battle pass, and that to me is terrible priorities. That was the point I was trying to make. That was actually the point I was trying to make in this whole blurb, but I went off on my own thing because I wanted to sound smart, and I really didn't. As I've proven, I am very capable of being wrong. I make mistakes all the time, so I hope you guys understand that. Again, last time I'm stepping in. I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Bye. Sorry. Okay, done with the battle pass portion. Let's get back to the narrative. I just wanted to point that last bit out because I think it's important to understand that if these things only exist for a battle pass, then I think that's very, very crappy considering how difficult it is to earn anything in a Rainbow Six battle pass. Look, the overall problem here is not the existence of new lore. That's fine. It's that it's almost entirely irrelevant. It won't change anything gameplay-wise. The reason it exists, I believe, is to create a new means of getting cosmetics and battle passes. And don't get me wrong, that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it is, but let's do a comparison. People like to tell me again, I said this, no one cares about the lore in these games. No one cares. Sure, let's say you're right. No one cares. No one cares about the lore. The lore is irrelevant. Well, the deal is, with For Honor, you may not care about the lore, but you see the lore portrayed in the maps, in the game modes, and in the cosmetics. The origins of Pirate, Warmonger, Griffin, and Medjai all connect back to an overarching lore. And you may not care about it, but the developers are working that lore into the game. Not always well, mind you, but still noticeable. Whereas with Rainbow Six Siege, the lore literally means nothing. It's fluff. Kali and her team don't have to be from Nighthaven. They could have come from any country or organization and it wouldn't have meant anything to us. The Wolfguard and Ghost Eyes factions don't have to exist. They will still fight with Rainbow and die with Rainbow. The backstory behind why characters like Azami join Rainbow are irrelevant because there's nothing outstanding about her in character or in usability that makes her unique. Compare her to someone like Medjai, right? Let's use Medjai. For a character like Medjai to exist in For Honor, several questions have to be asked. Where did an Egyptian come from, since they don't usually exist in Heathmore? How did he get here? Why is he here? How does he fight against these new enemies? But for Azami, I don't need to ask those questions. I know what she's going to do. She's going to shoot the bad guy with a gun because that's what everyone does. She's a Japanese woman. That's fine. There are already Japanese people in game. I know where they come from. She wears a mask. So do many people in Rainbow Six Siege. I don't need to ask why she's there because Rainbow already has all these things. There are plenty of operators who are like this. Adding her lore as to why only makes me ask, why does it matter? If you add lore to Azami, okay, you've added some lore, but I could easily disregard it. With Medjai, I could try to disregard it, but still that lore is fundamental to why he's there. With Azami, I don't have to read up on it. Literally, think about it. If Medjai drops and I'm a For Honor player, I'm thinking, whoa, an Egyptian? Where did he come from? If Azami drops in Rainbow Six, I don't even need to look at her lore. I'm like, oh, look, a new Japanese lady operator. And don't misunderstand me. I want lore to matter. I want to enjoy the lore, but the biggest and most obvious problem with this lore is how poorly it's written half the time. You can go over my analysis of Sins, Osa, and the defection of Ella to understand what I mean here, but I often feel like the lore writers want a gripping and deep story about two sides of military matters. Those who play by the rules and those who don't, but have very deep pockets. And yet it feels, again, juvenile at times, like the writers don't fully understand how militaries and war works. And I get it, guys, I get it. I'm probably reading too much into it, and I'm not telling anyone that likes Rainbow Six or likes For Honor or anything like that. I'm not saying one's obviously the superior, one's obviously the worst. I'm not saying that at all. I am not. But here's the reality. For a long time, one of the reasons I started this channel was because I was tired of people saying that For Honor was a dead game. I've heard so many people say, you can't compare For Honor to games like Fortnite or Rainbow Six Siege or any of these other games. But here's the reality. Rainbow Six Siege has stepped into the world of lore. And whether or not you say it doesn't matter, no one cares, they care. Otherwise, they wouldn't be sinking money into making these videos and making these little trailers and making character story videos and stuff like that. They have sunk time, money, and resources into making this stuff. They clearly care about it. The difference, though, is the lore they're making is not only poorly written, but it appears to be only for the sake of making money, and it also is very blatant in that. I've got to be honest, it's pretty blatant in that, and it also, well, I just don't think it works. I don't think it works that well. It's generic, it's simple, it's basic, but I think it's only being used to create battle pass cosmetics, which are incredibly difficult to get without paying for it, and I just think that's poor priorities. For Honor, I'm not going to say is flawless. Of course, they probably make some of this lore just to make money too. I'm not denying that, and I'm not denying that battle passes require you to pay money to get the premium stuff, and some battle passes aren't good. I grant you all of that. I think that's all very true, but at the same time, I feel like at least with For Honor, I can point to the areas where I think the lore works. Whether or not it was done with the right intention or not, I can point to parts where I say this works, and look at Rainbow Six and say, this doesn't work. And then I look at the priorities and I say, well, both may be for making money, but at least this one was entertaining. It's kind of like going to see a movie, right? you're paying money to see the movie. You don't have to. You can wait till it comes out on whatever streaming service you want. You know, like if it's a Disney or Marvel or Star Wars movie, you could just wait until it comes out on Disney Plus and watch it there, and all you're doing is paying for a streaming service. You don't have to go to the theater, but by going to the theater, you're paying money to get an entertainment experience. You don't complain about the money. You just go, that was a good experience, or that was a bad experience. It's the same thing here. Even if it is to make money, at least I can look in For Honor and go, okay, some of that lore works. I look at Rainbow and go, that doesn't work. So that's what I wanted to talk about here. I know that I kind of went on a rant here. I apologize about that. That was not my goal. But I hope you found it entertaining to some degree. If you disagree with my stance, that's fine. Just be respectful in the comments, okay? That's all I ask, because I don't need people yelling at me about how I don't understand anything. Let me know if my calculations about battle passes were off point. They were, but we've established that. It may be a little outdated, but let me know in the comments. Let me know your thoughts, whether you're a Rainbow fan or a For Honor fan. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I can't wait to see what Rainbow's going to do next. Until then, I will see you in my next video. Take care.